Here we are in the 2009 Turner Prize, the exhibition which every year the public adores, hates, argues over, discusses, and visits in large numbers. The judges come each with their long list of the artists they'd like to see in the Turner Prize, and this all gets discussed in a meeting where the whole thing is whittled down to 4 or 5 artists. The list itself is compiled on the basis of what those artists have done in the previous 12 months or so, not just in the UK, but around the world.
In the installation, there's a combination of physical presence and abstract language. Sometimes I'll use a physical object like a chair to imply a kind of sentence or a series of characters, almost like a language that you're external to, a language that you can't understand.
Lucy Skaer's work is a combination of objects and images and a play on meanings. She'll take a chair apart and then use it to print an image so that the chair becomes a kind of abstract language. Or she will take a piece of stone, the same stone that Henry Moore used, and turn that into a sculpture. And the fact that it's actually stone, even though it looks like metal, there's this strange alchemy going on in her work. And the images themselves on the wall behind me include a sculpture by Henry Moore. And her use of materials ranges from coal dust to animal bones to chairs to money. They look like a flock of black penguins, don't they, kind of huddling together against the Antarctic chill, or maybe the chill of the white walls of the Turner Prize exhibition. In fact, they're based, all of them, on the same sculpture by Brancusi, a 1920s work called Bird in Space. And Brancusi very famously tried to import this work into America, and it was stopped by customs, who thought, is this a machine part? Is it some kind of weapon? Lucy Skaer has remade this sculpture, of which Brancusi made many, many versions, and she's remade it using compressed coal dust. And what's coal dust made of? Well, carbon. And what else is made of carbon? Diamonds. It does glint. It does have this rather beautiful, strange, sexy, but threatening kind of presence.
My decision to stop making work on canvas or movable works was a sort of solution to a problem of the particular time. Traditions of painting I had been brought up with or was aware of or was sort of surrounded by simply didn't belong in the world that I was living in.
We're looking at the work of Richard Wright, and it's a bit hard to see because of the reflections on the surface of the drawing on the wall. Well, is it a drawing? In fact, it's gold leaf that's been applied to glue that's been drawn on the wall. And it's a strange image, which looks a bit like an old engraving, but it's been symmetrically repeated and reversed to make this rather beautiful and strange landscape, within which there seem to be sunbursts, deluges, and very strange images which, in a way, are like Rorschach blots, the kind of things a shrink might show you, and you have to see sort of images within all the abstract forms. This drawing on the wall behind me looks a bit like a cross-section through a fish or through bone or cartilage or something, and it's a kind of response to Lucy Skaer's work on the other side of that doorway. Wright's work is often about where you are, where you find yourself, the conditions of the space in which the work is shown, trying to make you very much aware of yourself in the space, the act of looking, and what looking constitutes and what it might mean. Wall-sized drawings, much smaller elements, pieces that go round walls and around corners, works in which Wright is kind of testing the conditions of the space that it inhabits. And another space, a space which isn't really here, a space which you imagine, a sort of a virtual space that art always kind of occupies.
An artwork has a life beyond its display. And I want to try and find and further that possibility of any object or any production being furthered simply from the life that it might have within an institution or a gallery space.
Roger Hiorns was nominated mostly because of a work called Seizure, which is a normal, everyday, dilapidated South London flat, which Hiorns filled with a solution of copper sulfate, which, as the water evaporated, left the whole place a crystal world of copper sulfate, which rhymed and covered everything from the bath taps and the bath itself to the light fittings and the ceilings, and you squelch and crunch your way through these disgustingly psychedelic, decaying crystals. Behind us, a wasteland on the floor. Not so much a wasteland, perhaps, as a desert of wadis and rills and dunes. In fact, it's an atomized jet engine from a passenger airliner. They get atomized and they get pulverized in order to reclaim the metals when the machines are recycled. What Roger Hiorns has done is kind of spread it all around the floor, working a bit like Jackson Pollock, I suppose, but with dust and this metal fragments rather than paint, to make this landscape. You think of the desert and you think of an exploded jet engine and you think of wars in the 21st century.
The day language stopped being anything but disorder, my mouth shrunk to the size of a very small slit, and my head got almost entirely filled by an ever-expanding tongue. I spent most of my time maneuvering this enormous lump of wet, muscle-pink flesh in my head, at times allowing it to reach to the back of my eyeballs, making my eyelids beat like a broken doll.
This is the work of Enrico David. What we have here is a kind of stage where the play is half over, you don't know who any of the characters are, you don't know what the drama has been that's led up to this moment, and you don't know what's going to happen next. I like that very much as an idea, and for me this is one of Enrico David's better works. So you've got the kind of long-necked, floppy, droopy figure, you've got characters on a kind of screen at the far end, and you've got Enrico David himself as a sort of rocking egg chair man. It's scatological, it's playful, it's full of gags. Sometimes it's a bit too obscure for me. One of the things I do like very much about this exhibition is its kind of bawdiness, and there's a sort of rumbustuousness about it. You imagine trombones being played off-key, fart noises, and gongs being struck, and pratfalls, and hysterical laughter. This year I vacillated a bit. Should it be Roger Hiorns? Should it be Richard Wright? Will it be Enrico David? I don't think Enrico David is kind of good enough, really. I think his work is too dispersed and too obscurantist. Lucy Skear's work, for me, she's just done too much. She needs a better editor than herself. And Roger Hiorns' work is a bit of a come down after that Crystal Room, but for me it's between Richard Wright and Roger. I don't really care which of them wins. So, well done Roger, well done Richard.